AI infrastructure is a critical and rapidly evolving part of the artificial intelligence landscape. I'm Michael Krigsman, and today on CXOTalk episode 884, we're exploring this topic with Mark Papermaster, Chief Technology Officer and Executive Vice President at AMD. Mark oversees an extensive portfolio of hardware and software. So let's get into it.
I've been very fortunate because I've had the chance for the last 13 and a half years to be the CTO of AMD in an incredible inflection point in the industry. So myself and Lisa Su were recruited at that time because AMD was a storied Silicon Valley company. It's over 55 years old and had such promise, but was facing challenges at that time. And so it was an opportunity to jump in right as AI was starting to come out. Think about 2012 when you were starting to first get natural language processing where it could have a much higher accuracy rate than other techniques using to actually be effective use of neural net engines and to be able to be that first promise of what was yet to come. So the timing was perfect. AMD had great building blocks. CPU technology, GPU technology, other accelerators, and the know-how to put them together to address specific markets. Everything from supercomputers down to PCs to embedded devices. So it's been a phenomenal opportunity. There's just great talent at AMD, and like I say, it's just been a dream job.
The technology world is going through another inflection point today with generative AI. What does that mean for AMD?
The real inflection point was indeed generative AI. We saw the promise coming of what could be, and so that's why we started investing and making sure our technologies would be there, both hardware and software. But generative AI was such a fundamental inflection, Michael, because it made AI accessible to the masses. Now you could go into, it started all, of course, was Chat GPT. And so think about when in November 2022, Chat GPT comes out, and suddenly it's a conversation. You're putting in tokens or questions into this Chat GPT, and it's accessing supercomputing to give you, answers that you never thought of getting that type of intelligence out of a computer before. So it really opened up AI and honestly the supercomputing underneath it to the masses. And what have we seen? And what's hard to believe, it's just been several years since then, just such an explosion of capability, more and more accuracy from those large language models and Chat GPT and all of the Grok and the rest of the models there. But you're also seeing now the shift to inference. So now people have really started to realize how you can deploy AI and fundamentally change most every process that we've dreamed of.
So this shift to inference, this expectation of accuracy that you were just describing, what does that do to AMD in terms of your technology, your strategy?
The need for more accuracy, and now the shift of inferencing, meaning millions and millions of more users. Already ChatGPT is running 400 to 500 million users interactions per week. I mean, it's just stunning. And what I'd have to say is it means for us and frankly our peers in the industry is that the need for the computation to support that is just growing exponentially. I call it this insatiable demand for more computing. And it needs to be efficient because you can't just throw just more and more engines at it because it would burn more power than we have available. And so it takes, Michael, a lot of innovation to be able to drive forward that kind of computing capability in a smart way. And it really takes understanding how those software algorithms work with the hardware, because otherwise you can't truly optimize.
So your strategy then involves both the hardware and the software, the interaction. So you're broadening, you have broadened the portfolio, could we say, from your traditional business, which was more narrowly focused on the processors.
We've always been a hardware and a software company, but we were, capital H hardware and small s software for years. Software was very, very important, but always an enabler. Now in this AI era, the software is equal or more important, frankly, than the hardware, because we can't let off at all on hardware. As I said, that those engines have to be more and more efficient at every generation. But to unlock that power, you have to understand, where are the AI algorithms going? What are the techniques that could be used to make AI more efficient? Can we use different matrix math methods to make it more efficient? Are there algorithms? Think about some of your listeners may know of the change when the transformer was introduced into the AI model, and flash attention. These are all techniques in the algorithms to allow AI to be more accurate and more efficient, and the hardware has to match up with that. So it takes a very, very tight collaboration of hardware and software, and that's what makes it hard, to bring competition, to the market in AI. I'll tell you, Michael, for AMD, we had to earn our way to get a seat at the table with these largest of companies that are creating the cutting edge large language models, the new advancements in AI. We had to prove that we're that player. We can bring that competition, and that got us access with their developers, and that allows us to make sure that our roadmap is absolutely competitive in AI going forward.
What does winning for AMD mean in this market today, as you've been describing it?
We are very tight in our communications with her CEO leadership, and her communications is always driving us to be the very best that we can. When we enter a market, we intend to rapidly gain share. We want to be a leader in that market. The analogy I'll give you, Michael, is what we did in CPU servers. When Lisa and I joined, we actually had to exit the server market because we didn't have a sufficiently competitive x86 CPU. And so what we did was laid a strategy. Let's get a leadership CPU. Let's go win that market, because it's clear that so many workloads were moving to the cloud, moving to the data center. And so we did exactly that. And it doesn't happen overnight when you do chip design. So it took literally 5 years to get that new leadership CPU. It's called our Zen family of processors. But look at what's happened. In the server market, we went from virtually zero share in 2017 when we launched that to roughly 40% market share right now, versus the incumbent leader Intel that had that dominant share. And that's exactly what we want to do in GPUs and CPUs and GPUs. Actually, they work very, very closely together. And that's what we want to do in AI, and that's what we've already started. I mean, when we launched our first AI-oriented processor, AI-optimized processor, it's called the Instinct 300, MI300, December of 2023. So first year production, 2024, we went from, again, virtually zero revenue in these data center GPUs to $5 billion in 1 year. Fastest product ramp ever at AMD by far. And so so that was again, zero share to about 5%. It's a huge market, but we won't let up. I mean, we'll do just that CPU journey I described to you. Was it took generation after generation of listening to customers, putting out products, having that seat at the table, and then improving the product, hardware and software every generation. That is exactly what we're doing for data center GPU. And frankly, it's what we're doing across our portfolio, because our whole portfolio, from PCs to embedded device to gaming graphics, they're all AI accelerated.
Go to CXOTalk.com, subscribe to our newsletter. We have incredible shows coming up, so check them out. How do you work with the model makers, with OpenAIs and others in this world, to optimize what you're doing against what they ultimately need?
We had to beef up our skills in this area. You can't show up at an OpenAI or a Meta, or folks that are just absolutely steeped in the fundamentals, down to all of the details of what it takes to create optimized large language models handling these, massive tasks that generative AI, massive scope, I should say, that generative AI takes on. Because, think about the billions to trillions of parameters that are going into these large language models, Michael. So what we had to do and what we did was to mode match. So we took our brightest software leaders and we brought them to the table. You don't come in with a marketing team. You don't come in, with a waving of hands. You come in with your deepest and steepest of technical experts. And then we grew that expertise, that software expertise, through organic hiring and also acquisitions. And so at this point, we have very skilled teams that can sit down and really go through and understand where are the bottlenecks. How can we hardware software that we provide, the enablement across those CPUs, GPUs, and now racks? You have to build that up into rack scale expansion to be able to handle the training and inference for these largest LLMs. And so that is a muscle that we have built up over the last 2 years. And we had to do it very, very quickly, and we have to be incredibly agile. If there's one constant as you work with companies like OpenAI and Meta and the rest, if there's one constant, it's change. We'll sit down with them and they'll say, well, guess what? We were going down this path. We found a better way. There's a better algorithm. Here's what we need to do different. And we were always an agile company, always able to be quick on our feet. That's one of the stalwarts of our AMD culture. Well, we put that to test as we work with those AI model companies, and luckily we're good at it. So we react quickly and adapt and meet their needs.
Folks, right now, you can ask your questions of Mark Papermaster. If you're watching on LinkedIn, just pop your question into the chat. If you're watching on Twitter, X, use the hashtag CXOTalk and get your questions answered. Mark, is there a cultural dimension to this change? You mentioned developing a new set of muscles. Is there a cultural change that has to go on when you go through this type of inflection?
We went through a cultural change at AMD first overall. That's been, frankly, the fuel of the whole turnaround. If you just look at AMD over the last 10 years, we've grown dramatically, Michael. And I attribute our culture as a big piece of that. And the change in culture was to really focus, first of all, on execution. When you put out a product roadmap and you talk to customers and you listen to them, so you build in features that they need, can differentiate your product and make it better than the competition, you have to deliver that when you said you would, with quality, and become that dependable supplier. And so that has just been a maniacal focus. When I got here, I started working with the rest of the engineering team on really re-engineering our engineering processes so we could be that repeatable engine of getting out new leadership, innovative technology cycle after cycle. And as Lisa stepped up she was running all of our businesses in AMD, and in 2015 became CEO of the company. And so if you think about, actually it was late 2014, she became the CEO. And what she brought was this amazing focus across the entire company on a focus on customers, listening to customers, a focus on delivering products that really make a difference. So that's that execution engine. And then thirdly, just simplicity. Let's not be a company that's caught up in complexity, but really simplifying how we do things to make sure that we're the most efficient that we can be. So that was a change from a company standpoint. And then as AI, this explosion of AI, as you say, back to the release of the first generative AI, and now what we've seen is such a massive inflection in the industry that's still going. That's causing yet again new muscle to the company. And that new muscle is one, like what I said earlier, being as much a software company, if not more, than we are a hardware company. So that's been a change. And then secondly, is just speed at which we move. I have been in this industry 4+ decades, and I have never moved at the velocity that we are now. And as I look across our whole company, we are moving at a faster velocity than we ever have. And when I look across the entire industry, I see everyone moving at a faster pace. AI is accelerating the rate and pace at which innovation is delivered to the market.
We have a question coming in from LinkedIn. And again, folks, when else will you have the chance to ask Mark Papermaster? He's the CTO of AMD, pretty much whatever you want. So take advantage of it. And this question is from Preeti Narayanan. And she says, as the cost of running large-scale AI models in public cloud environments continues to rise, many enterprises are reevaluating high-performance on-prem or hybrid infrastructure options. Yet, bare metal deployments bring their own challenges in terms of complexity and maintenance. From AMD's perspective, how should CIOs and CTOs navigate this trade-off? And are we approaching a point where hybrid AI infrastructure becomes the strategic norm?
One size doesn't fit all. We think about that with our product portfolio. We're going to offer choice. We offer a broad ecosystem, so customers can think about really having choice, not a bespoke, not just here's your only AI solution. Here's a rack that our competitors putting out there and not giving you the ability to really tailor it as you need. We work with OEMs. And we work with hyperscalers. So what you're starting to see is a bit of a dichotomy. You're getting massive rack scale designs in the hyperscalers that are supporting these largest of large language models. And so where you have significant training needs or large scale inferencing that you're doing, you're probably going to continue to run those on the cloud. And by the way, because of the efficiency that we're driving the industry, the cost per token is going down. Now, the cost of the computing is going up because we're adding more and more capabilities, but the actual cost per token is going down. But it's an expensive bill because all of industry is bringing on more and more users because people are starting to deploy AI. They're running AI inferencing in most every process that they have. Consumers are using more and more AI in their daily lives. So that demand's going up. How are businesses thinking about that? I do see them moving to a hybrid. I do see them, as I said a moment ago, using the cloud for those big tasks that they have, but they're starting to tailor and fine-tune models to their business. They're harnessing the data they have. And so then you're not needing the LLM that you can ask it anything. You're creating your own large language model, and in some cases, small language models, really tailored to more point tasks. And that's allowing businesses to develop and to be able to support more economically on-prem. And frankly, lower latency. It's faster because it's right there at the point of the factory floor, or the point of where the users are seeking those immediate answers. So I do see a hybrid approach. I see a dichotomy, and there's a third leg of that, and that's actually the embedded devices. So you have on-prem, and you have what you're running in the cloud, and then thirdly, the edge for AI is really going, and that's where you're literally embedding the AI engines at the point of data acquisition, so that it's just immediately providing smarts to the process that's being controlled.
Other guests on CXOTalk have also said that they believe that the future is smaller but more tightly focused models for particular domains and applications.
It's obvious, right? When you step back, you think about it, it's like, okay, as you start deploying AI, it will get tailored. It will become more efficient. People have to drive the cost down for point applications. We saw this coming at AMD, quite some time ago, and we leveraged the fact that we have that breadth of portfolio across As I said, everything from supercomputers. We have the #1 and #2 supercomputer in the world, right, on AMD CPUs and GPUs. We're growing in the data center with both CPUs and GPUs, but also smart PCs, Michael. So we were the first to introduce AI, deep AI acceleration for co-pilots in the PC, and that's been a really growing piece of our portfolio. But also, we just introduced with our latest version of gaming graphics, leveraging AI there, to beautiful upscaling in graphics, leveraging the embedded AI. And then think about our acquisition of Xilinx in 2022, a leader in embedded devices, programmable gate arrays, along with the embedded x86 business that we have, all of it AI accelerated. So we are absolutely seeing this coming and expect to see a continued growth of AI deployments as people understand how to harness their data and bring effective inference applications.
Let's take some more questions. We have some from Twitter right now, from X. And this is from Ricardo Dionda. And he says, how does AMD's internal IT organization act as customer zero for your AI solutions? Are there examples you can share where internal adoption directly influenced product development?
We're a technology company. Shame on us if we didn't make ourselves customer zero, but we have actually been doing this for the last years. And starting about 4 years ago, we actually raised the visibility of IT significantly in being customer zero. So our CIO is directly engaged. Hasmukh will engage with customers. He'll understand their needs. He'll share with them how we are deploying AI. And he's also supporting our engineering teams as they're running our compute systems. And, to the extent where we don't think about bringing out a new data center GPU, a new data center CPU, a new PC. We don't even think about bringing it to market until our IT has already exercised it, already deployed it first to the users, the compute users at AMD, and that we've tested. We build clusters of data center computation first. We do deployment of hundreds of PCs before it goes out to the market. And likewise across our embedded applications. It's a little bit harder on the embedded applications, but it's not hard at all for PCs through our data center computing products to be customer zero, and that's exactly what we do. In fact, I'll add, we've actually sped our chip design process up. That's what we do. We develop chip designs, and the hardware and software has to work effectively. So what do? In the chip design process, we are using AMD on, just think about, there is billions of transistors. Our latest AI chip has 154 billion transistors. Actually, our newest one now has over 180 billion transistors. How do you get all those transistors laid out across the silicon and the vast wave of interconnect that you have to put this together? It all has to be perfect. You can't have one transistor or one connection on that transistor that doesn't work. AI, it turns out, is very, very effective at helping ensure that we not only have the most optimum implementation, but it's helping our test processes and getting the coverage to make sure that no defects can escape through our manufacturing test line. And so it's been very, very effective, not just in engineering, but even our business practices. So being customer zero also brings direct benefits as you speed the internal AI applications success, efficiency.
Let's grab another question. You can see the audience is an incredible audience and really smart. So I always defer to their questions in front of my own. And this is from Elizabeth Shaw, who says, so what's the technology strategy? Is it thinking of all the product lines or families as one system distributed over different domains?
When you think about a product portfolio like we have at AMD, you have to be flexible in how you chart the direction. What do I mean by that? Each product itself has to stand alone in its own category. So CPU has to, our x86 Zen line of CPUs, it has to be the best x86 CPUs that are out there. Same thing with our GPUs. They have to be the best engines that are out there. The same thing across our gaming graphics, our embedded devices. So you have to think about all the building blocks. Our roadmap has to make sure hardware and software, the software enablement, that we are best of breed. And then when you put it together, what we have is a strategy of how they are deployed, how we tailor that to products that meet the customer needs. How many CPU cores do they need? How do you need to tailor it when it's being used for database processing versus that same CPU is being used as a head node, a controller for a vast number of GPUs that it's managing, two totally different use cases. And likewise, that applies across each of our portfolios. You have to think through the use case, the dominant use cases of our customers, making sure you're optimized. And then there's yet a third step, and that is we have to think across our whole portfolio, how can we get synergy? For AI, what we've done is we have one software enablement stack, ROCm. That's our name of our software enablement, and that is going to be the top level of making it easy to deploy AI across, whether it be our data center GPUs, our CPUs, or our gaming graphic devices or embedded devices. And that's an area that we're incredibly focused on right now in 2025 and really opening up that capability to the users. You can now run ROCm on our AMD-based Windows PCs. You can now run ROCm on the latest of the Radeon graphics cards. And as well have it optimized. Even CPUs are, people don't realize CPUs are an essential part of AI processing, and we have them well enabled as well.
This is from Chris Peterson, who says, on the technology side, where does AMD see the GPU to GPU interconnects going? On the biz side, what's AMD's plan if the AI industry pivots massively in algorithm design, or the power, water, sustainability just can't keep up with demand? So 2 questions, very, very quickly, GPU to GPU interconnects, and then the larger set of business issues.
We have previously gone about that with using our proprietary Infinity architecture, which has been proven through our generations of CPUs and GPUs to date. But we have a commitment in AMD to an open ecosystem. We think it's extremely important that, again, that you don't just have a few bespoke offerings because it's a walled garden approach. And so we support, and we're a founding member of Ultra Acceleration Link. And what Ultra Acceleration Link is, we donated the kind of protocol we use to connect our GPUs. And now it's out there, not in AMD control, but control with multiple companies that are running the UA-Link consortia, that are ensuring that other switch vendors can play, other competitors of ours that are creating their own accelerators. They can use this Ultra Acceleration Link standard and use the same switches and connectivity solutions that are out there. Again, we are committed to an open ecosystem, and that is our strategy for GPU to GPU links. The second question's, of course, critically important. What do we do as the demand for energy consumption goes up and up and up to accommodate our insatiable demand for more AI computation? My short answer is innovation. There's just the demand is just so high. You look at the hundreds of billion-dollar market opportunity we're looking up there at by just in the next few years, by 2028, the market size is going to be that large, and so that's an incredible pull for innovation. When you have a market that large, what it means is we're going to continue to innovate. How do we make these GPUs more efficient? And how do you make that GPU and CPU work more efficiently together? But even more than that, how do you support where you have algorithms that aren't changing so quickly, so you don't need that programmability of that GPU and CPU? We support as well tailored devices and custom devices that our customers could work with us on. So I think we're going to see that whole range. I'll just say, just to show our commitment, we just hit a milestone for CPU and GPU computation for these most demanding AI and supercomputing workloads. We set out in 2020 that we would drive a 30x improvement by 2025. So in a 5-year period, 2020 to 2025, we'd have a 30x improvement in performance per watt, energy efficiency. And we actually declared just a couple weeks ago, with the advent of our new MI350 series, we not only hit that 30x improvement in efficiency, we actually hit 38x. So we do that. We put out measurable milestones to incent our own team to be efficiency. We work with professors and universities to make sure it's not marketing fluff. It's real efficiency that's going to be delivered at the end of the day. And so now we're on to our next milestone. Sam Nossinger leads this for us, has just put together, again, working with the community, working with professors so we can measure it, a rack efficiency gain. So as I told you, these now scale at rack level of how you put these AI compute clusters together. And we've committed to a 20x improvement at rack level by 2030. So that's our next energy efficiency milestone that we're focused on.
You've spoken about significant changes in potential or the innovation necessary to manage potential significant changes in algorithms. You've spoken about the need for sustainability. Are there other big issues that you have on your radar right now that you're focused on?
We don't have a choice, Michael. We have to look at the entire landscape. And so we worry every day. We worry every day, first on disruptive technologies that are coming. We have a great research team. They're constantly looking ahead at what's coming in terms of our computation, how we can interconnect that computation to be more efficient. Our networking technologies. We've got very, very innovative networking through our acquisitions of Xilinx and Pensando. Just super technology of how we can network these AI computation. And now with our acquisition of ZT Systems, the landscape includes the rack design and driving that innovation. So we call it holistic design. It has to be cross-disciplinary of all of these groups, hardware and software, working together to not only design the next generation, but look 1 and 2 generations beyond that. What's disruptive? What's coming? We're partnering with others on quantum computing. I won't get in the debate as when does quantum go mainstream. Quantum will start off as an accelerator. It'll be, bespoke applications that can really benefit from quantum. But we're going to be there already. Our Xilinx-based FPGAs in our portfolio are used as controllers in most every quantum computer out there today. And we also, work with the rest of our portfolio to be that CPU and GPU complex that can work with those quantum accelerators. Just an example, but it's really the entire landscape, Michael, that we have to be looking out. Again, not just at today's products, but the next generation and generation beyond.
Again, from Chris Peterson, AMD, NVIDIA, and others seem to be competing relatively head-to-head in terms of overall design for AI. What about plans to compete with niche players like Cerebras or others that have wildly different solutions? So I'm interested really in both your competition with AMD as well as with the other niche players that Chris Peterson mentions.
We are a mass producer of computing technology. And so it doesn't behoove us to be, the first to market in a niche application. Cerebras, I give that team a lot of credit. Andrew Diraj and team do a great job of a wafer scale integration. And there's certain tasks that when it fits in that model and can leverage that flow processing, data flow processing to a wafer scale, it's going to be certainly have advantages, but it's not, it is specific workloads that can really benefit there. And so they're doing well in that. We'll watch that. If workloads that can fit in that kind of application grow, and I could say the same about any other startups that are focused in certain areas, we watch it closely. And if we hear from our customers that's gaining traction, that more and more models could leverage that, we're going to bake those approaches in our plan. But we have to make sure that we're listening to as well, given the role AMD plays in the industry, that we are really looking and making sure that we're 1 and 2 steps ahead of mass scale AI computation.
Two of the core themes that you have mentioned are execution and, to simplify it, keeping your ear to the ground on what's happening in the industry and where things are going. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. I wouldn't manage my day-to-day any different than I do right now, and that I have in the entire time I've been in the CTO role at AMD, and that is prioritize having that ear to the ground. So I prioritize customer visits, and I fly to customers, or set up virtual meetings like you and I are having today, and very much make sure I'm in listen mode. I don't go in and just beat my chest and say, you should be using AMD. Here's how we can give you the better total cost of ownership. We can help save you money. I do mention that. I weave that in for sure, but that's not the reason I'm making that call. I'm first understanding what challenge are they facing, and I want to make sure that our portfolio can address that, and then I can educate them and show them where we can bring them advantage. And likewise, we follow the competition. I run a regular process within AMD, which is just our competitive review. So we look at any announcements that our competitors are making because we don't ever want to be arrogant. Like, we can never have an attitude in AMD that, we're just better than everyone else. We have the right way. What other people are doing is wrong. The converse. We look and we are constantly asking ourselves, do we have that best practice? Is there if there's a better approach someone else had, let's top that yet again. Let's use that to spur our innovation on, to make sure that we don't find ourselves in any way disadvantaged.
And on this topic, Christine Lofgren from LinkedIn asks about leadership practices that enable you to be responsive, to innovate, and do the things that you're describing.
We often look past how important fundamental communication skills are. I mean, you think that sounds trite, like, of course you have to communicate well. Well, I'll tell you, it's paramount. Like, I have spent 4 decades trying to hone my communication skills, and communication means two-way. You think you're listening. Are you really listening? Did you play it back to the person who is talking to you to make sure you got it right? And that applies externally and internally. It also is just how do you communicate what you're doing and your North Star to the team? Is the whole engineering team aligned on the priorities that we have and how we achieve those goals? That takes an investment in excellent communications. And then with our customers, are we really articulating our value proposition and what it is we're about in AMD and how we can deliver them value? So across the panacea, internal and external, I think communications vitally important. It has to be married with a sound strategy to win. And so if you take the time to really develop a strategy that will make it clear for all the investments we make, how we're differentiated, how we bring value, how we're going to win, and you marry that with excellent communication, that's how you win.
Do you have any quick advice on communicating well for business executives? Seems like an obvious topic, but you've just emphasized the deep importance of it.
You have to put the time in. So it comes easy to me now because I've been doing this for decades. But it didn't always come easy. I invested the time to hone my skills, which means you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Force yourself to be where you are not comfortable. And again, that can be internal communications or external communications, but get out of that zone that you've been living in, stretch yourself, hone your skills, get feedback. Lisa Sue always says, feedback's a gift. It really is. Like, put your thick skin on, get feedback from those that you know will tell you the truth, not butter you up and tell you, oh, yeah, that was great. Get unfiltered feedback. And then lastly, in this age of AI, use AI. I use AI every single day to help me and give me information to have better decisions, but also in communication, proofreading what I did, what was not clear, what was the tone of that communication I just wrote. It's that right-hand person that it's, by the way, getting better and better every generation that's there to help you.
Isn't that amazing that you, given your role as CTO of AMD, just referred to the it as a they, essentially?
Why? Because you use it that way. And so when you're deploying AI, you're thinking about like, oh, I need help. Do I get this person to help me, that person to help me, or do I want the AI to help me? That is how I think about it. I think that's how most people are starting to think about it.
I use numerous models every single day, and absolutely, that's certainly how I think about it.
Michael, have you used some of the new reasoning approaches that are out there and the research inferencing capabilities that are out there? Have you tried any of those capabilities? You do?
Yeah, all the time. And now one of the hardest challenges I face is figuring out what's the right model to use for the right task. If you use the wrong reasoning model, you'll end up sitting there for 20 minutes while it gives you back the wrong answer.
Absolutely. How you deploy, how you prompt, how you iterate is so important. You asked me a question earlier about how does algorithmic change, how does that affect AMD? Now that we as we hit reasoning, and as well as agentic processes that spawn off, many tasks. I can tell you it had a huge change in terms of how our computation engines are deployed. So when you go through reasoning, it means that you're going through multiple loops of inference. You're doing the forward chaining of your machine learning processing again and again and again to get more accuracy, but primarily also bigger context windows. You're building on, I ran an inferencing loop and I got these kind of answers. Well, I want to remember that, but I want to build on that. And I want to use maybe a different expert or a different kind of model. I'm going to build on that. It turns out that's like a database that you're having to manage of all that context. And so it needs great CPUs, which we have at AMD. And so what we're seeing is more and more having that strong CPU paired with the GPU to be able to be effective on these new modes of inferencing with the reasoning and the research. And then likewise, agentic AI, because agentic AI, you can code it up to handle a number of tasks. It can go out and run, get to APIs, application programming interfaces, and spawn other tasks. And those, what we're finding, are often on CPUs. So it's really driving a different mix in the computation for AI.
Are you helping guide your software technology partners, the model makers, in terms of best practices for offloading certain kinds of tasks to the CPU versus the GPU and when to go back and forth and so forth?
When you think about that interaction that we have with model developers, they're the deep experts of the model itself. We're the deep experts of that communication, the communication tuning across the different compute devices and how to mode match that with the algorithms. So it's very much a give and take, a brainstorm that is pretty incredible to see.
We have a question from LinkedIn, changing gears entirely here, from Dr. Ankur Upadhyay. And he says, what are AMD's plans for future expansion? Any plans with Southeast Asia?
We are constantly expanding. We have grown across Asia. I mean, when I think about what we've done, and we've been in Malaysia and Singapore for many, many decades. I think we've been in Malaysia 50 years. And so, we continue to expand worldwide, including Southeast Asia. India, we're at 8,000 employees today, 8,000 engineers, and we're on a pace to be at 10,000 by 2028. So across, across Taiwan, China, we're at other geos there. So it's not just there. We're equally expanding in Europe. We are an example of a global company, a multinational company, MNC. We serve a global market, and so our engineering force and our sales force are absolutely global.
This is from Vishal Bhargava, and he says on LinkedIn, he says, which research and inferencing products are we talking about? Can you please share specific names?
Oh, when I'm talking about research products, I'm talking about literally like OpenAI research. So you can get a research subscription with OpenAI, and there's it costs more, but you truly have that researching capability I was described, and you can get similar functions with Anthropic and other models that are out there.
Ricardo Deonda on Twitter X comes back again, and he says, what are the biggest challenges AMD faces in managing machine identities across hybrid and multi-cloud environments, especially with the rise of AI-driven automation?
Identity is a huge focus across computing. I mean, we do an authentication every time we talk to any other computer to make sure that we know it's a valid and trusted compute device. So I would probably need a little bit more context to answer your question the best.
How do geopolitical considerations and the drive for supply chain resilience directly influence AMD's AI product strategy, R&D investments, and global manufacturing partnerships? And I'm not trying to make this a political conversation.
Our supply chain, like everyone in the industry, has had to become very agile. And so as there's tariffs, which apply to certain products and certain sourcing locations, we need to have the agility to maneuver as best we can to mitigate those impacts. Otherwise, the cost of our products would go up. And so we do that. We have a fantastic supply chain team. What Keva and his group do are very flexible. We're a global company, and we have global manufacturing. And so we've been agile. Just like I said, we have to be agile to adjust our products and to listen to our customers and optimize them for computation. Turns out, in the current geopolitical, our supply chain has to be equally agile.
On LinkedIn, Christine Lofgren comes back and says, what key trends or developments, both within AMD and the wider tech industry, do you expect to shape AI's trajectory over the next 12 months?
One, as there's more and more inferencing, you're just getting such innovation on models. Already, I'm so impressed with some startups or some businesses have been able to do with small language models that are really pointed at tasks. And I just think we're just at the absolute beginning, the tip of the iceberg of tailored models that bring innovations for very unique tasks that can be incredibly efficient. So I think model development, both tailored in small language models, but also to allow us to scale the accuracy of the large language models as hyperscalers are driving to artificial general intelligence. So I think we're going to see just continued innovation across that spectrum. And then likewise, the base technology itself, how we put it together, you're just going to see tremendous innovation to make it more power efficient across everything from supercomputing to the smallest devices. Tremendous innovation going on in this area. Everything from materials to new types of transistors, how the memory is connected more closely and more efficiently to the compute devices, networking, and on and on.
Mark, you mentioned artificial general intelligence, AGI. You're in a very unique position working with these model developers. Do you have thoughts on the trajectory of the models going forward, say over the next year? Where do you think the world will end up, say a year from now or 9 months from now?
We can see 9 months. I don't know we can go much beyond that, 9 months to a year. But when you look at that time frame, you're seeing a continuation of of more and more accuracy coming out of these models, larger context, being able to handle much more thoughtful answers, particularly like I talked about earlier with these reasoning techniques that are being applied. That trend will absolutely that trend will actually continue over the next year, as well as more and more compute capability needed to support that. The tough question is 5 years from now. Where are we, 5 years from now? what actually is that definition of AGI? Do we hit it 5 years from now? Lots of debate out there, and I'll leave that to others to prognosticate what is that definition of AGI and the precise date in which we hit it.
What about agentic AI that you've mentioned several times? It seems like that is such an important architecture, if we can call it that it's not going away anytime soon. Thoughts on that?
I talked to a CIO of a major bank, and she was describing to me the progress they've made in agentic AI. I mean, they got almost the entire company enrolled in deploying AI. And what they're, every week they're finding point applications that can just be sped up by creating an agentic AI. And think about that. That's a ripe area. Banks handle transaction processing. I mean, so much of their time is spent on well-defined tasks, well-defined data. And so if you can create an agentic AI that has clear goals, clear sets of data, clearly defined APIs to connect different tasks together, it's going to drive a very, very quick hit of efficiency. And I do think we're going to start seeing that more and more. We're certainly doing that internal to AMD, looking for processes where agentic AI can speed our productivity. And it leads, Michael, to the, you asked me to keep it short, but I'll keep it very short. But it's agentic AI that I would urge people to think about. Where can you make people really more productive? Like, do people want to be spending their time where it is very much a process that agentic AI could do for you? Lean in, get that agentic AI to complete those tasks, to free up the time for the innovation, the creativity, the really human-driven opportunities that we have in front of us as a society.
That is going to take some time to diffuse that kind of knowledge and the ability to break down processes, because it's one thing, folks like yourself who are really advanced technologists who understand the link between the technology and the business process and being able to decompose, but there's a maturing process across industry that will need to take place.
Absolutely. It's actually, again, cultural as well as technical. And so therefore it does take some time. People have to get their heads around it. They have to build the technical acumen to be able to deploy. But I think it's going to happen much more quickly than we ever anticipated.
Mark, as we finish up, advice for CIOs, CTOs inside large organizations in the enterprise at this point in time today, and to generalize based on you talk with lots of customers, what should they be really focused on?
One, I'd say if you're not moving more quickly than you ever have before, something's wrong, because the pace of change, really has really inflected over the last several years, and will continue in the period that any of us could project. So I think one is, if you're not comfortable embracing change, you have to adapt. And I don't mean change without managed risk. One of the things that we drove in our AMD culture is take the risk, but manage it. Make sure you have checks and balances. Don't walk off the edge of a cliff without a rope attached to keep you from falling in the chasm. So I think that's one is really be receptive to change, but manage it to ensure that you're controlling your risks. And the second, I would say, that comes with that is stepping back and examining what is your core value prop. Like, what is the key things you're doing? And in an AI era, can you really re-architect how you do things? Are there the very fundamentals and processes by which you run your business that can be re-architected in the AI area? So both those would be probably the two biggest piece of advice I would share to CIOs and heads of infrastructure out there. And I would say help AMD in our quest to create a competitive environment where there's an open ecosystem and competition out there, not one dominant supplier. I think that's bad for everyone.
And personally, I want faster chips so I can render video and do all the things I do faster and faster and faster, and with not quite so much heat.
That's unending quest. I mean, that's what technologists like myself, we have no choice. We have to stay focused there every single day.
Mark Papermaster, Chief Technology Officer and Executive Vice President at AMD, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. I'm very grateful to you, Mark.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who watched and for your great questions. Before you go to CXOTalk.com, subscribe to our newsletter. We have incredible shows coming up, so check them out, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks so much, everybody.